because there's a lot of like misinformation out there too.
Yeah, there is.
You know?
And you know, a while ago when we talked about how we need to listen to our customer, the hormone thing is another thing. At the end of the day, your customer is your customer. You got to listen to them. And no matter how I may feel or another producer may feel about something like hormones, if your customer doesn't want it and that's it, then that's what you do. That's what you find a way to do to make the animal work for your system, because that's what your customer wants. And it's a lot harder to change the customer's mind than it is your operation.
This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. What up, Unstoppables? We have a great episode today, but real quick, we want to invite you to make the most important investment of your life. It's not a secret. There's no like smoke and mirrors. I'm not even trying to like pull a fast one on you. I'm going to be pretty straightforward. The best investment you can make in your life is in yourself. And the best way to invest in yourself is by investing in your network, putting time and energy, surrounding yourself with the best. You are the average of those you surround yourself with. In that Restaurant Unstoppable network, I've made it easy. Over the past 12 years and 1,200 plus episodes, I've been researching and talking to people and trying to figure out how do you become successful in the restaurant industry. And I've curated a network of tools, services, technologies, and individuals, experts that I would go to tomorrow if I'm opening a restaurant. And I'm bringing you to that network with live events, whether it be a workshop, a mentoring session, a power hour, or access to me twice a month where I just listen and steer you in the right direction, all happening at Restaurant Unstoppable Network. Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/live. You also get this amazing access to all the recordings, RUNetwork podcast, which includes bonus, ad-free, and early release content. It also gives you access to our Unstoppabot. It is a custom AI agent that is fed with 1,200 plus transcripts, over 2,400 hours of transcripts plus bonus content, all cross-referenced with our database. This is a powerful AI tool that you also get access to as well. What are you waiting for? Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/live and we'll see you there. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, co-founder of Dean and Peeler Premium Angus Beef, Dustin Dean. My man, Dustin, are you feeling unstoppable today?
I feel pretty unstoppable, man. I feel like I'm ready to conquer the world. This is my first podcast, so
you're going to be awesome, dude.
I'm ready. Yeah,
I'm psyched to be here. So I found your, what you guys got going here, Dean and Peeler, through a conversation I had with Evan Leroy, Chef Evan Leroy from Leroy and Lewis, just kind of pulling back the layers, learning about their operation. And you just had amazing things to say about what you're doing here with your farm, sourcing local, your operation, how it's vertically integrated.
Right.
And I'm really interested in learning through you. Hopefully through this conversation today, we will better educate the restaurant owner on where to and how to source beef from local purveyors. You know, what does that look like? And like, what do we need to be aware of? So I want to capture your story. I want to, learn from you and pay your knowledge forward to restaurant owners across the country. But before we dive in, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
So we started Dean and Peeler Premium Angus Beef July of 2014. And the day that we started it, my wife bought me this really cool poster, and I've always been a big Teddy Roosevelt fan.
Yeah, I love Teddy.
And she brought me that one that was the man in the arena.
Yes.
It's been so appropriate for everything that my partner and I have done. The man in the arena. I mean, and it's a message that we try to get our employees to understand, but all the way down to our kids too. So the man in the arena. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I don't even have it all memorized, but I see it every single day because it's in my bathroom. And that gets me going. So, and if I could say anything to anybody, that's like the most ultimate business, family, motivational statement that I've ever seen is the man in the arena by Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, it's a great quote. And it might be the most quoted or referenced quote on the podcast. It might be right up there with Maya Angelou's. It's not about how you make people, or not about, was it the one I see? I'm like you. I'm not really great at the verbatim. I can paraphrase, but it's about how you make people feel. Basically, it's not about what people say about you, but it's how you make them feel.
That's right.
So this is a great way to get the show started, man. Real quick, why don't you just get big picture? What is Dean and Peeler? Like, what are you guys? Like, paint the big picture.
Yeah. So we're located where we sit right now. We're 35 minutes southeast of the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas, and we are the only fully vertically integrated beef company of any size in the United States. And that basically means that we own the calves from birth all the way through production, all the way through our own feeding facility where we're sitting today. And then we harvest the cattle at our own harvest plant that's about 10 minutes down the road from where we sit right now. And then all of the boxed beef out of that harvest plant goes 30 minutes up the road to San Antonio to another business that we have that is called Supreme Meat Purveyors. And Supreme is a further process, like value added type company. It's about 20,000 square feet. And so the boxed beef leaves our plant, goes to Supreme. And at that place, we'll cut steaks. We'll do 1 pound bricks of ground beef. We will marinate, make stir fry, fajitas, things like that. We have a fully cooked operation there too, to try to basically use the expertise at Supreme to take full advantage of the whole entire animal. Because I wish cattle only made ribeyes, but they make a lot more than that. So we got to use that business model to try to take full advantage of everything. And then we market the product through great partners in food service like U.S. Foods and a few others as well, and then also deliver directly to a few different restaurants. So yeah.
Okay. You just dropped a lot on us, so I want to make sure I got all the elements of your the vertically integrated businesses. So birth, feed, production, harvest, your meat purveyor, which I'm assuming is like a production facility.
Yeah, production facility.
And then marketing. But do you also do the marketing, or is that a separate company, or is that in-house?
Yeah, no, we do the marketing too, and then as far as the sales go, yeah, we're not a distributor, so we're a processor. We're a producer and a processor, so we'll rely on other people to get it distributed for us. Got it.
And U.S. Foods is a company I've been following. Don't get a lot of like on-air testimonials, but whenever I'm traveling the country, I'm going to these restaurants and I see their trucks, in the parking lot, offloading goods. And I start asking, I'm like, how do you like U.S. Foods? And what I'm always hearing from them or the restaurateurs is that like these people are just so helpful.
Yeah, sure.
It's not about them winning. It's about making sure we win. And plus I've heard that they have really great like practices with trying to support local farms too. So in full transparency, that was another reason when I found out that you're partnering with U.S. Foods, I want to get into that too. Okay. I think it makes sense to kind of go through the different phases of the business.
Yep.
And in full transparency too, I think it's the vertical integration model that is going to be a big part of the solution going forward.
Absolutely, it is.
So why is that?
Well, I think to be vertically integrated too, you don't have to be. We say that we are fully vertically integrated. So from the moment the calf is born to the final part where that brisket is sold to Leroy and Lewis in Austin, Texas, so that's full vertical integration. But you can also be vertically integrated in sections of it too. So let's say that you may own the feeding facility and the harvest facility or something like that. Or you may own the harvest facility and like the actual production of the product and the selling of the product. We're fully vertically integrated. And a great comparison of that is like Tyson or Cargill on the pork and poultry side. Like on the poultry side of things, they will own the laying hens themselves. They will own the eggs. They will own the production of the eggs all the way, or the actual poultry itself, the chickens themselves, and they will actually process that product and finally sell that product. But it had never been pulled off in beef before.
Why is that?
Mainly because you can be too small to where it's all around economies of scale. So you can be too small to where, if you're only harvesting, let's say 15 animals a year, financially you can't afford to own your own harvest facility if you're going to only do 15 a year, right? It's not really there. And on the flip side, you can be too big. Like there's no way that just pick on Tyson. It's okay. There's no way that Tyson can own enough land to support the cattle that they harvest every single year. It's not possible, right? So we fit in this little mid-range kind of a slot that it works well. And then plus, we're close to 20 million customers here in this triangle between Houston, Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, Fort Worth. Yeah. So yeah, we're in, from economies of scale, we're in a good spot to make it happen.
So, one of the things I'm trying to figure out, like it obviously there's, maybe you disagree with this statement, but do you think that the food system is broken?
I don't think people understand enough about the food system. I think that, and it's not their fault. Not everybody can come here and see what actually goes on. Not everybody can go to a ranch in Wyoming. Not everybody can go to a chicken farm in Georgia and a pork farm in Illinois or something to learn how good America already is at what they do. I think that it's not people's fault. I do think that my industry in agriculture has done an absolutely horrible job of telling our story. And,
Hopefully I can help with that.
Yeah, I hope you can. It's like my 11-year-old daughter who knows way more about my iPhone and than I will ever know. She gets frustrated and she'll tell me all the time, like, Dad, you got to be one with the internets, Dad. And we're getting better. I mean, there's never been a time that American agriculture has told their story better than today. But historically, we haven't done a good job, and we haven't done a good job of connecting to our customers, whether it be a restaurant, whether it be a mom or a dad or somebody that's shopping at Costco or a retailer. We haven't done a good job connecting to them to tell the true story of how good a job that we already do. Now, could we do better? Absolutely, we could. There's a lot of holes in the American system.
Where do you think we could do better?
I think we can do better. I think we could do better on the beef side of things. I mean, I know 100 times more about beef than I'll ever know about pork and poultry. But on the beef side of things, I think we could do a lot better job in product quality and product consistency. That's one of the main reasons that Jason Peeler and I started Dean and Peeler is food service. Take U.S. Foods, for instance. Food service's biggest complaint about the beef industry was its inconsistency. You open a box of briskets, and there's a 10-pound brisket and a 22-pound brisket in the same box. Well, that's 2 different cooking times, 2 different trim levels, and that's tough on the restaurant. How many times do you go in a steakhouse and you never really know if it's going to be tough or tender or not, even though you're spending $72? So we wanted to build a system that really produced more consistency in that eating experience for the end user.
Okay.
I think that's a huge part where we can do better.
So what is that system that you've developed to help create more consistent beef?
Well, it starts with the genetics, and that's one of the things you and I were talking about a little bit before we got started. There's no way that I can produce a brisket or a eye of round or any of the different cuts that we produce out of our cattle that have the eating experience level that they do and the consistency level that they do, where it's exactly the same every single time, if I don't go all the way back and start back with the genetics themselves. Because there's that old saying, you can't make a purse out of a sow's ear kind of thing. I mean, it aging and other things that we do to beef to try to help it, that only goes so far. If the product or the animal's got a problem to begin with from a quality standpoint, then you're kind of fixed. So yeah, we started with the genetic side of this to once that embryo was formed, if we want to get real technical here, it's fixed once that embryo is formed, and it is what it is. So genetics plays a huge part in it of trying to create an animal that's the same every single time.
So you're not going out and selecting the egg, though, are you?
Oh no! I don't mean that.
I mean, we're getting pretty close.
As far as okay, we need this type of bull to be bred to that type of female because they both bring positive and negative things to the equation. We need them to produce an offspring that is better than its both parents combined. That's the whole idea. Is that we need through selective breeding and stuff like that, which is nothing wrong with that at all. If we've got a bull that does things right, and we know he does, and we need him to be bred to this female to produce an offspring that's going to be better than the average of the 2 parents.
What's a bull do right that you're looking for?
So a bull, to me, for our specific breeding program, and we can get into a little bit of that in a minute, but I need a bull to be what we call a low birth weight bull. Okay, I need a bull if I can't get the calf born, then the whole thing's over, right? So meaning a low birth weight bull, that means that bull is going to help produce a baby that is going to be a low birth weight, meaning that the mom is not going to have a problem having it.
Yeah.
We don't need a 125-pound calf. I need that calf to be about 80 pounds.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. And then you get into other stuff on how the bull grows. How do we expect the progeny out of that bull to do? And every big beef breed out there, from Angus to Simmental to Hereford, all of them, they all measure that. And when we go to select a bull, we look at those measurements, those predictable measurements, to know that this bull is going to produce offspring that, number one, have a low birth weight, but then they gain well while they're alive. While they're gaining weight, putting on meat, putting on muscle, putting on fat, we need them to do it very efficiently. And efficient's a very large word with multiple definitions, but we need them to be very efficient. And then we need them to have enough marbling on them, enough muscling to do that side of it from the father side. Yeah.
So how much of that has to do with the sperm and the egg in terms of being a low birth weight?
So basically the sperm and the egg, I mean, they are what they are when they're formed, right? So if you got this bull that Well, let me back up and say this. After the sperm is formed and after the egg is formed, the egg already contains the chromosomes from the mother. The sperm cell already contains the chromosomes from the father. So those both are fixed. So I can't take a bull that, go back to birth weight, that notoriously produces really large babies and breed him to a female that may typically produce small babies and try to get that accomplished. I need them both to do it. So, yeah. Yeah,
Got it, for that consistency.
Yep.
So you're looking for the similar features in the cow or the
exactly.
Is it sow? Is that the?
Sow's a pig. So
I was
yeah.
gonna say
In the dam, the
Did
female.
I hear you
the
say
cow.
a sow earlier today?
Yeah, I just meant you can't make there's that old saying,
like,
you can't make a purse out of a sow's ear.
Oh, is that what? Okay.
Yeah. So I can't make.
I got confused. I was like, I thought that was a pig.
I can't make a great eating experience.
Cow.
Or Leroy, but go back to Leroy and Lewis in
Right.
Austin. Leroy and Lewis cannot make a great eating experience for their customer. Even though I'm local, even on all that really cool story, if I don't send them a product that's got quality in it and it's going to perform,
Especially
they
with
can't
barbecue,
do it, no
where
matter
it's
how
like
good
so
of a,
precise.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how good of a barbecue person they may be, if I'm sending them something that's tough as boot leather, it's going to take forever to get it to be a quality product. So to get that to not be tough like boot leather and to be a great product, I've got to go all the way back to the genetics to do it right.
Right. Now, taking what I know about the restaurant industry, if you're trying to scale a concept of Leroy and Lewis wants to take this beyond one location, right? They have to have consistency in their product so that they can train their staff and put systems and processes to deliver that consistency. But when you take one variable and you make that something that could be different with every literally every, I don't know what, brisket is that their like
that's the thing they buy most of from
right
us,
like
yeah.
If you have like different size briskets, then like that's going to add one more layer of difficulty in training staff to be able to scale something, right? So it's all connected. So when I was talking to, I think we got down this path because I was saying like, what can the farming industry do better, and you went right down to talking about how we could create better quality product that's more consistent, but in a more micro picture of the industry, like in terms of like sustainability. What do you think we could do better?
I think that the first thing we have to do is define sustainability. Okay. So sustainability to me does not only have to do with the earth, put it that way, because there's economic sustainability too.
Right. How do you find that balance?
Sir?
How do you find that balance?
Oh man, well, I don't think we found it yet. I think we're still trying, But but as far as our operation, I mean, we're still here. For us, we have to look at what does our consumer want, and then kind of backtrack it and figure out how to make the right production system work and run that way. I do think what we have done better in the past, and a lot of producers across America, beef producers across America, do better, is to listen to their customer. Identify that customer, and if the customer's a restaurant, if it's a customer that they want to sell to at a farmer's market, if it's their customer is a distributor like US Foods or someone, identify your customer, what do they want, and then look at what your where you are in America, what breeds of cattle, what production systems can you use to fit that. Just because your grandparents or somebody or whatever ranch that you live may have raised this certain kind of breed of cattle may not mean that breed of cattle is the best for your customer too. So you need to be able to make some changes.
So I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of what's wrong. If we were to point to like what's wrong with the food system, I think it comes down to the consumer.
Yep.
And a lot of people might get angry at that statement. But I think if for the most recent history of humankind, what people wanted was more for less.
Yeah, right.
Like, I want better prices and I want to get more of it. I want the biggest version of whatever I can get, the most meat on a skeleton for as little as possible. And farmers got really good at doing that. And that's how mass production came along. And that's how using, different, I don't know, you know this better than I do, but using, is it like steroids or like growth hormones to like that, maybe it might help grow a chicken in 3 weeks from like birth to slaughter. I don't know how long the process is. I'm exaggerating, of course. But I know it's short.
Right.
Like what health effects, like what are the side effects for eating that? And like, what are the environmental impacts on that?
Well, what's interesting, so we can talk about growth hormones. I have no problem talking about them. So, do I personally feel, and let's just put it this way, Do I personally feel that there's an adverse health effect, of eating a 16-ounce ribeye, okay, that came from a steer that was implanted once in its life, which is going to be around 1,000 pounds.
When you say implanted, what do you mean?
Implanted. So you look at a growth hormone. That's when we say implanted, it's most of the time it's a little pellet that gets inserted under the skin in the ear, and it's like it just slowly dissipates, slowly dissolves, kind of a time release kind of thing.
Okay.
And that is very, very common. And there's some people talk about, is there a health aspect of that, or a health risk from eating a steak that came from a steer that was implanted once in its life when it was around 1,000 pounds? And the reason that the industry got into the implanting is that it causes the animal to be very, very efficient. They do a better job of taking 1 pound of feed consumed and turning it into 1 pound of body weight gain or muscle gain. Okay. Right. So you look at athletes and bodybuilders and all that kind of stuff, they want to do a better job. They're always looking for a way to do a better job of converting what they're eating into muscle gain or a faster sprint or something else. And it's the same thing with the growth hormone in cattle. That's why it was invented. And what's interesting too, a lot of people don't realize that the growth hormone is actually primarily estrogen. It's not like, the boys get testosterone and the females get estrogen, but it's mainly estrogen. So do I personally feel that there's like a adverse health effect of eating a steak that came from a calf that was implanted once in his life? Absolutely not. I was involved in some of the foundation research on that in college where we analyzed that. Absolutely not. And there's what's really interesting, and you can Google it, there's been a ton of research on this. There's one of the original papers showed a grade 1A organically grown head of cabbage compared to the same amount of weight of beef that came from a calf that was implanted, just like I talked about. And when you measure hormonal things in science, you measure it in nanograms, okay? And that organic grown head of cabbage had 1,520 times the amount of nanograms of naturally occurring estrogen than did that 16-ounce ribeye that came from the calf that was implanted one time in its life.
Yeah. I mean, I understand from like an economics point, like you as a farmer have to figure out like, how can I get the most yield for the amount of work I do, right? So we can increase, to make money, right? At the end of the day, you have to be able to make money. I get that. And I honestly do not know a lot about this world of, hormones and how that manifests later down the road. Like this is all new to me. Like I'm learning. So, I know there's a book out there, and it's killing me that I can't think of the name of the book. It was just released. This farmer out of like Canada who wrote this book about like the truth of like farming and like what, because there's a lot of like misinformation out there too.
Yeah, there is. And a while ago when we talked about how we need to listen to our customer, the hormonal thing is another thing. At the end of the day, your customer is your customer. You got to listen to them. And no matter how I may feel or another producer may feel about something like hormones, if your customer doesn't want it and that's it, then that's what you do. That's what you find a way to do to make the animal work for your system because that's what your customer wants. And it's a lot harder to change the customer's mind than it is your operation.
What up, Unstoppables? This episode is made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. If you are a listener of Restaurant Unstoppable, I know you've heard me mention Restaurant Systems Pro, but just in case you haven't heard of it yet, it is a all-in-one enterprise solution. All the most critical systems that will help you become profitable. I'm talking about costing. I'm talking about inventory management. I'm talking about budgeting. I'm talking about labor management. I'm talking about training. The list goes on, all under one roof, tied to your general ledger, and they have their own POS, and they integrate with nearly every major POS out there. Restaurant Systems Pro is an amazing tool, and this is the thing that gets me really excited. When you join Restaurant Unstoppable Network, you get access to the CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, Fred Langley, twice a week for a P&L Power Hour. He literally will let you open up your P&L, share it on the screen, and he will help you close the gaps and increase your profitability. You do not have to be a Restaurant Systems Pro user to benefit from these live events. He doesn't care. We're just here to help you. Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP to get the full playlist of every Restaurant Systems Pro episode, a link to all the testimonials. And if we haven't sold you on Restaurant Systems Pro by then, I don't know what else to do. But if you really want to up your Restaurant Systems Pro experience, be sure to join Restaurant Unstoppable Network too. All right, guys, one more time, head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP. Yeah. But I think you're right when it comes back to the consumer. So if the consumer wants to support, if there's a consumer demand for supporting more local businesses or sustainably run businesses, or businesses that do regenerative farming, which you do as well, right? So do you want to get into that?
Yeah. So the sustainability part of it we were defining earlier, that, like we said, there's like economic sustainability and then what we would refer to as environmental sustainability. So I think that one of the cool things I love about our operation is that we get people educated that to be sustainable or regenerative or to have a low carbon impact on the planet, you do not have to only be a grass-fed, grass-finished operation. And there's a reason why we are. And what's interesting about our operation, hopefully when we get done with the podcast, that people really realize that we are, when you look at a carbon impact on the planet compared to natural production systems in beef, we are light years ahead of everybody else when it comes to a low carbon footprint. So one of the main reasons for that is that all of our cattle, which we're going to go out and ride around a little bit and look at.
Yeah, I'd
right?
love to do that.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. We are all of the cattle that are in our Dean and Peeler Premium Angus Beef program. All of them are half Angus, half Holstein. Okay. So we don't have, while we do have ranch land and things like that, we don't have, Dean and Peeler does not have this big, massive 200,000 acre ranch somewhere that we pull all of our calves from. Okay, so we work with dairies to make our calves for us. Now that's where most people look at me like, wait, what? Yeah,
so you work with dairy farms to make your calves.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, so the you look at dairy farms. So all dairies today, all dairies breed their cows through artificial insemination. Okay. Dairies don't run bulls I say run. Dairies don't put bulls with cows anymore, and for a couple main reasons. Number one, dairy bulls are, whether you're Holstein or Jersey, they're extremely dangerous. So that's one of the reasons. But also, putting bulls with dairy cows anymore is inefficient when you have technologies available to these dairymen out there like artificial insemination. So you take a dairyman and dairies are light years ahead of where the traditional beef herd has been in data collection and stuff like that. They're very, very controlled in how they do. They do a great job. But all the dairy females get bred through artificial insemination. So when they will breed, that one or two Holstein bulls to all 5,000 cows at the dairy. So when you collect a bull, and we can get technical on terms, but if you hear of jumping stallions, right? Well, the same thing on bulls. When you collect a collection from a bull, that one collection, you can make around 300 straws of semen for artificial insemination from one collection on a bull.
Wow.
Right? So it's really powerful, right? So when you find that bull that does a lot of cool stuff right, one collection from him, you could breed 300 females with one collection. So it's very efficient because you can spread that bull out over a lot of females. So let's start there. So all dairies breed their cows through artificial insemination. So then, where do we come into play? So we work with dairies to basically breed the older half of their cows with Angus semen from bulls that we help them select. And they use the younger half of their females. They breed them with, let's say, what we call straight Holstein semen, which was just regular Holstein semen. They'll breed them with Holstein semen to produce replacements for themselves.
Those are your bulls.
No, the Holstein bulls are their bulls. Okay. Yeah, actually, the Angus bulls are too. There are very large semen companies, global semen companies, been around a long time. Select Sires, ABS, Gen X, Alta, Sexing Technologies, and ST Genetics, and they all have these big bull lineups. And basically, they go to dairies and
the Genghis Khan of cows.
Kind of, yeah. The dairy will look through the catalog, and with the semen company, they'll look through it. Yes, there is such a thing as a semen catalog of all things. And it's got bulls listed in it.
Are there pictures too?
Yeah, wow. But yeah, there's bulls listed in it and pictures. And they work with the dairymen, these semen companies do, to select the right type of bulls that do what they need to for their operation. And so then the dairy will order the straws and semen from the company, and they'll store them in a liquid nitrogen tank, and they will breed their females to it.
Okay.
And so, it's unbelievably powerful. It's one of the main things that has caused our industry, both beef and dairy, to be where it is that same 5,000 cow dairy in Amarillo, Texas, for instance. They can breed all 5,000 cows to one bull if they really wanted to. So it's a great technology.
So like my mind can't help but go to what happens when we have that much DNA in the world in terms of like what's the word I'm looking for when you want like if you have the same DNA out there over time, like tracking all of this, like you want the DNA to be kind of distant, right?
Diverse.
Diverse, yeah.
Well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, that is a problem with when you look at we call it a gene pool, like what's the diversity of the genetic base that is in the Holstein herd today, or the dairy or the Jersey herd today. It's actually pretty tight. Yeah, it is. It's very, very tight, meaning that they have, but that's another reason at the same time that our dairy herd is the most efficient in the world. And most pounds of milk produced per day for female kind of thing, because they've been able to select these sires and dams that do everything that they need them to do, from efficiency, milk production, all these different things to do the job right. I mean, same thing in racehorses. They're going to breed a fast dad to a fast mom. I mean, it's the same concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, but at the same time, it's a law of diminishing returns too, where you can get in there to where there's not enough genetic variability, and so that can cause a problem sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's so complex.
Yep. Yes, it is.
I mean, I called you a farmer earlier, but you're a cattleman. Is that what you said?
Yeah, definitely more. Nothing against farmers, but
part scientist too.
Scientist.
And I think that's the thing people don't realize. If you think of a farmer, you just think of this like person with dirt on their knees and elbows, and they're rolling around with the animals and pulling stuff out of the earth. But there's so much more to it.
And what we were alluding to earlier. Why do we breed? Why do we work with these dairymen to do this? So we work with these dairymen to get them to breed Angus bulls that to the older half of their females, the younger half of their females, or they will breed Holstein semen to make replacements for themselves, because the older cows are getting older. They need to replace them with younger heifers coming up to maintain their total numbers. So that's real common. You look at the older half, we get them to use Angus semen, and you have this half Angus, half Holstein baby that is born at the dairy. And we own it the day it's born. We work with the dairies. We buy them the day that they're born. And the care that they get at the dairy is phenomenal. I mean, they get
Do you own the dairy farm?
No,
Okay.
no, we don't own the dairy farm. Yeah.
So the vertical integration, what you listed was from birth to feed to production to harvest to supreme meat purveyor. So it's from purveying to and then you do everything but the distribution.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're still kind of in the world of birth right now in terms of covering all these different.
Yes. I mean, yeah, that's what's the crazy part about it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we still kind of are in the form of birth, but when those babies are born at the dairy, they get great care. I mean, they get fed bottles like 3 times a day. They get put in. I mean, it's incredible amount of care that they get at the dairy, and a lot of people. That's another thing I wish more people knew about, is be able to go to a dairy today, a good modern dairy in the United States, and see how well that the babies get taken care of. And
you think of cattle farming, and all you have is these images of like cows on top of each other, and like standing on like black earth. And like I've driven by a farm before, driving across the country. It was out in like on the border of California and I think Nevada. Was I in Nevada? Maybe it was California and Arizona, Southern California.
Oh yeah, it's California, Arizona.
Yeah, maybe you know the one I'm thinking of. And like I'm like, is there weather coming? I was like, you can see this thing from like
you can see the dust
miles away.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was like, is there like a weird like sandstorm or weather? And like it was just like it's hard to explain. You get closer and closer, and then you can start to smell it.
Right.
And you're like, what is going on here? And then you get there, and you're like, this is a farm. You could see it from literally like 10, 15 miles away at least.
Yeah.
You know?
You do. Yeah. And it's not necessarily the farm's fault. I mean, you see those kinds of effects, and heck, you see it on ranches in West Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. Plus, if I go to LA, I see a massive smog cloud too.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's both. Yeah.
So like, I mean, but am I going to see that today when I go to your farms?
No, I doubt it. I mean, that's where we are here. we're surrounded by a lot of ranches and grass stuff too that helps filter a lot of that out.
Yeah.
So and then we do a good job of keeping the dust down here. We have water trucks that drive and spray and kind of keep a lot of that stuff down. And we've been in a little bit of a drought here right now. So when it gets really, really dry, you have to watch it a little more.
Yeah.
But we those dairies, what's interesting about that too is when that baby is born, okay, we have to pay that dairyman for that baby. And we pay them a premium for that baby compared to what it would have been if it was just a straight full-blood Holstein calf, because they have to get something for participating in this and getting them to do it. So we pay them a premium. And when we started this over 10 years ago, this whole concept of doing this with dairies was unheard of at the time. We were the first to get out there and really push this, to get dairymen to use beef semen to produce an Angus Holstein baby and to do it on purpose.
So from like an economic standpoint, right? Like the economics of farming, what is the benefit? Is that just like blue ocean effect of like no one else is doing this and we can use our semen that we can basically sell to like a market that hasn't been like from help me get into like the entrepreneurial mind
absolutely. So a while ago I just said that the dairies would do it on purpose. Okay, so what I mean by that is they're doing it by design, not by default. Okay, so go back to one of those big semen companies. Okay, they would there's artificial insemination is used in the beef world too, not just dairy. It's used in the beef world too. We'll breed cows and things through AI, and it's real artificial insemination, not artificial intelligence. But that semen company, let's say they would go to a big Angus ranch somewhere that has an annual bull sale, and they would go to that big Angus ranch and they would pay $500,000 for the number one draft pick out of that bull sale, right? He's got the bloodline, he's got the looks, he's got the data, everybody wants him.
Yeah.
So they buy him with the total intent. Now this is years and years ago. They would buy that bull with the intent of collecting him, producing straws of semen out of him to sell to ranches and beef operations worldwide. But like most number one draft picks, or not most, at least half of them, they don't pan out for whatever reason, right? So they would find that with the bull a lot of times. But by the time they figure that out, they already have 20,000 straws of semen on him in their semen tanks. So what do they do with it? They don't want to just throw it away. So they would sell it for really cheap prices to dairies that wanted to use it on the older cows kind of things, and they would sell it for 25, 50 cents a straw or something, and just basically dump it in the dairy world, for lack of a better term. So an Angus Holstein is technically not a new animal. You could still go to a feeding facility in Iowa, or California and see an Angus Holstein in a feeding facility somewhere, but it was done. That animal was created by default, not by design. Okay. Right?
It was the byproduct.
It was
ideal.
It
semen.
wasn't. Yeah, it was. But it was done because of the number one draft pick issue I just talked about.
Yeah.
So we were the first to come out there with dairy and say, no, this is a good idea. You need to use beef semen, and there's a lot of reasons why. So the economic side, when that baby is born, that's half Angus, half Holstein, that baby right there today is worth $700 as a day-old baby. That is going to be roughly around $500-ish more than it would have been to that dairyman if it was just a regular Holstein calf. So all the dairyman technically has to do is to breed that older cow with a black straw, an Angus straw semen, versus a Holstein straw, and the baby's worth $500 more. So that's brilliance for the dairy, and it's great for the dairy, an alternative, byproduct, alternative source of income to them.
So your farm, again, birth, feed, production, harvest, purveyor, and then you work with distribution from there. Are these so you bring your beef to these milk cows, you breed them, and then once the cow is born, you purchase so you're selling semen to the milk cow, and then you're purchasing the calf
when it's born.
Yep. You're
and it stays there. It stays at the dairy.
It stays at the dairy. What's the name of this company that is the birthing company? What's that called? Is there a name for it, or is it all underneath
Dean and Peeler? Yeah, it's all under DBAs of Dean and Peeler.
So when I think vertical integration, they're different businesses though. Like you own the different businesses, and they operate under different LLCs.
Yes, that's true. But we still own all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, we still own all of them.
So it's like Dean and Peeler Birthing.
Yeah, you could call it that.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you got you have the let's call it cattle procurement.
Okay.
So the cattle procurement side of Dean and Peeler is its own company, and then our harvest facility is its own company. Supreme is its own company. Now my partner and I, we still own all of it, but we established different LLCs along the way. Yeah.
Got it. So at what point do they leave the birthing facility and go to the feed is a facility that you go where you basically produce the feed for the animals?
Correct. Yeah. So at the dairy they get, like
is that where we are today?
Yeah, that's where we are today. Yeah. So they get taken care of at the dairy. They get fed a bottle like 3 times a day. An incredible amount of care at a dairy for these babies, and they do really, really well. And then they get weaned, off of that bottle at around and then roughly.
Am I going to see some babies today?
No, we're not going to see babies.
That would really help out the Instagram.
We're not going to see babies, but we'll see some young calves, but not babies. So they get weaned off the bottle at around 75 or 80 days ish, something. And then, they get weaned off of that at the dairy, and then they get transitioned into more of a feed top ration at the dairy. And roughly around 150 days old, 400 pounds, is when we ship them here where we're sitting today.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll receive them from the dairies here, and then they'll kind of go through the feeding process here until they get harvested here.
How long from when they come here to when they get produced or they get harvested?
Yeah, approximately a year.
A year?
Yeah, approximately a year.
And what is like your sweet spot in terms of like the amount of volume you're doing? Like at any given point, how many like growing animals are here?
Well, we're any facility like this is permitted to have a certain number here, and every facility like ours gets regulated very heavily by a group we call the TCEQ. It's the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. So they monitor runoff, nutrient runoff, all that kind of stuff to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. They will also say, okay, your facility is permitted to have X amount here. And so we will have, anywhere from...
Is that like a surface area thing? Like they see how much total surface area?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. And then, so we don't max that out by any means, And so how many we're harvesting every week really depends on what our demand is too. And so we'll speed it up or slow it down kind of based on where the demand's going
Seasons.
at the time. Yes. And kind of where we are.
Summer's coming up. People are going to be ordering a lot of barbecue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, we'll have anywhere from, 5 to 10,000 here at any one given time. And that will change a little bit as the demand goes and comes and that kind of thing.
So in terms of the feed, I know your beef is 100% vegetarian. Why is that important?
Well, so the industry used to produce a lot of what we call blood and bone meal, which is actually a very nutritious product. You'd take bones and they would be they'd go to a certain facility and get ground up into a powder, and it's very high in protein. All that kind of thing was fed back to the cattle. But with mad cow's disease, stuff like that really eliminated all that, because mad cow's disease, bovine spongiform encephalopathy is the actual name, but it occurs in the spinal cord of cattle, and then the same human form of that also occurs in the spinal cord. So they did away with that. That way, there's no vertebra or anything like that could potentially get ground up and fed back to cows. So we don't use that anymore. We're 100% vegetarian fed here, and we're really proud of the fact that of where we sit right now. Everything that we feed the cattle, all the different components that we feed the cattle here, come within a 150-mile radius of where we're sitting right now.
Wow.
Yeah, and so another really cool thing is that a lot of people don't realize is when you come to a facility like this, a lot of people think that you only feed cattle corn. That could not be further from the truth.
Well, I was curious, what is in that feed? You're saying vegetarian, but is it I was wondering how much corn is in there. So what is the truth?
Yeah, so we call it is a balanced ration, and it's basically a ration that has multiple different feed ingredients in it that all contribute different levels of carbohydrates, fats, oils, minerals, protein to produce a daily meal for that animal that helps it do what we need it to do. So corn is a really small amount of that, 20% or less.
Okay.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is of all the different ingredients that we feed the cattle, corn is the only one that is in its original form. Everything else that we feed the cattle is a byproduct from another industry. So that really helps those other industries out, that and a really good one that we'll see in a minute is cottonseed.
Okay.
You look at the cotton. If you're a cotton farmer, you produce cotton. You strip the cotton off the plant. You take the cotton to a cotton gin, which will basically rip out the seed, pull out the seed from the cotton bulb itself. Well, what about the seed? The seed has a lot of nutrient value in it, and that's a byproduct from the cotton industry that we purchase from them, and that helps them out from a sustainability economic type situation. Another one is dry distillers grain. DDGs, dry distillers grain, is a byproduct of the brewing industry and the ethanol industry.
So what percentage of cottonseed in brewers, what was it, byproduct of the
dry distillers grain? Yep.
What are those percentages approximately?
So a really cool thing about that is, I hate to tell you, but the answer is it depends. And it totally depends on the age of the animal itself. And so we have a full-time, we have a consulting veterinarian here, but we also have a consulting PhD nutritionist that comes here every single month and analyzes every single pen of cattle, and based on their age, how much they weigh, their gender, what breed they are, what are we asking them to do at that moment, at that time that they're in that part of our facility, the ration will change based on what we're asking them to do. So we will design a ration that is specifically built for what we're asking that animal to do at that time.
Got it.
So when they get older, those percentages are going to change a little bit from all the different feeding ingredients. And we like to say here that, man, our cattle get as much attention as LeBron James does from his private chef, because I mean, there's no way that LeBron can jump as high as he does if he doesn't have a chef that's taking care of him nutritionally.
Right.
Same thing with our cattle here. There's no way that we can get our cattle to grade as high a prime as they do here and gain efficiently and do all the cool things they do if we don't give them the right groceries in the right combination to allow them to do it.
And they're grass-fed too.
Yes, yeah. When they come here, they go in like these big grass traps, and we say with what we call bulk feeders, it's just like a mobile feeding unit. So they get access to the feed a little bit early too in life at the same time that they're on grass.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, not a farmer, not a cattleman, not a scientist. Cows can live off grass alone, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So why don't we do that? Like, what's the reason for having to also put feed in there?
Well, Mother Nature, because you have droughts. Like the last thing, quite honestly, that I wouldn't want to be in Wilson County, Texas, where we're sitting today, is a cow out in the pasture, because we've been in a drought for over a year. We had 1 3/4 inches of rain last week. That's the most we've had in 422 days.
So the grass can't grow fast enough.
Absolutely,
to support the cows.
yes. And the grass can't perform. It can't grow if it doesn't have rain. It's very simple, and the cattle don't survive, and so they get liquidated. And absolutely, I mean, there's not many cows around here right now because they're all in a hamburger at McDonald's because they got slaughtered because the rancher can't afford to keep them.
Is that part of McDonald's business model to purchase liquidated calf or cows? That's
the nationwide industry, is not just McDonald's. I mean, and it's a good thing that we have an outlet for these cows that are, a 1,200 pound cow that's walking around that's got to go somewhere if the rancher unfortunately can't provide any grass for her anymore, or Mother Nature hasn't provided any grass for her. Where's she going to go? Right. And they get liquidated. Yeah, they get liquidated, and they become hamburger, it's been that way for a long, long time.
Yeah, I mean, these are the things we just purchase at the restaurant level. We just purchase the meat. We don't really know the story of how that meat gets to us. Right. And that's one of the things, I think if, again, mission statement is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. I think in order to transform the industry, there's got to be a level of education of like, what is your purchasing decision? Mm-hmm. And how does that impact the system?
Yeah.
Right. And I think to your point, you said it all starts with the consumer. If we wanted to, support more local operations, and to like improve the food system, generally speaking, like I think we have to know, okay, well, how do at our level, the restaurant level, how do we influence that? And I think it starts by influencing the consumer, because the consumer will dictate what we grow. To your point, like they control everything. What they want is what we're producing the food for.
Correct.
Like they set the bar, right?
That's right.
So, I mean, I guess one of these things I hear is that we can't produce enough food for the amount of people that are in the world.
That's correct.
How is that possible? That blows my mind. When I drive across this country and I just see fields and fields and fields, like anywhere you drop a seed, I feel like you can grow a vegetable, right? Like, not
kinda,
anywhere, but like,
kind
but
of.
with like hydraulic farming, or
hydroponics.
Hydroponic.
Hydroponics.
Hydroponic farming, and just there's a lot of fertile earth in this country.
There is, but
world.
if you're a farmer in Okeechobee, Florida, it's a total different environment, total different soil type, total different humidity way of doing things versus if you're a farmer in Boise, Idaho. right? I mean, that's why you grow potatoes in Idaho and you don't grow them in Florida, because they're adapted. They grow better in the environment of Idaho. But yeah, the comment about how we have a nationwide food or global food shortage in some cases, a lot of it is governments too. I mean, you look at the countries that these where the problems are. A lot of times it's a government that's suppressing, even though they may have an insane amount of natural resources there to do a good job. They don't have the government to support it. And that's one of the great things about America is that we are, if it wasn't for agriculture, we would not be here. There's absolutely no question about that. Agriculture is the reason America is what it is. And we are the best in the world at it in every form of agriculture. That's the reason that people come from all over the world to our universities here and our conventions and our meetings. I mean, I spoke at a meeting on Friday in Fort Worth about this, and there were foreigners there coming to learn about it. And so it's a good thing. I think Americans should be proud of that.
So when we say the best, are you saying the industrialization of it?
I mean that producing a wholesome, safe product, whether it is a plant-based product or a protein animal-based product, there is no other country that does it as efficiently and safely and wholesomely than the U.S. does by far. Yeah, and I mean other countries do great jobs too, right? In some cases, but as a whole, the United States is the best at it.
So is there? And again, I'm ignorant to this, but like you hear a lot of stories of people getting sick from eating a lot of the food that we produce in terms of like over time, like now if you're growing like grains for flour, right? Like I know you're not a farmer and you don't grow
you mean like celiac disease?
Yeah, like celiac. So there's more people that can't eat bread than ever before, or there's just like you look at some of the beef and meat that's produced and it doesn't even look like they add dyes to it, and things like this.
Okay, well, you're getting on my soapbox in a minute, but no, that's okay.
Please feel free to
it's okay.
That's okay. Like I said, like I'm ignorant to this.
There's a lot of big misconceptions too about that people think, you go into a grocery store and they inject it with dye or something to keep it. No, they don't. I'm in that industry. I'm in it every single day. They don't. And I think that's one of the problems, though. That's my fault. That's not the consumer's fault. That's my fault.
Where does that come from? Where does that
idea?
Yeah, like that. I guess if it's not true, it's a lie. Where does that lie come from?
Yeah, because I think anything you say on the internet is apparently true.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I mean, and I think that's a big problem. But that again, I view that. I don't view that as the customer's fault. I view that as my fault, my industry, because we should always be doing a better job of telling our story, inviting people to come. Historically, ranchers in the United States, we're grumpy old guys that go to Dairy Queen and have coffee in the evenings and only hang out with each other kind of thing. That's over. Yeah. That's over. If we're ever going to make it, we got to be open-armed to the public and get them to come in and realize as good of a job as we actually do, And so back to your question about the food supply and things like that here. The grass type of it, I mean, there's nothing that man can do, at least today, to my knowledge, about a statewide drought.
Right.
There's nothing you can do. And so that's why that our United States of America cannot support a grass-fed only type operation for 330 million people. Yeah. There's no way. And that's another reason that we import a lot of grass-fed product from Uruguay, from Australia, other places that do a good job too.
Seasonality, like peaks and valleys, and they're on the other side of the equator. So when things
Uruguay,
are good there,
absolutely, yeah. So Uruguay does a good job on some things, and so does Australia, and so that's why we import product. And another interesting thing related to restaurants in this whole conversation, this podcast is interesting to me, regardless of what people feel about the whole tariff thing that's going on right now. It's interesting that. You take fajitas. Okay, so Americans have an addiction to fajitas, and that's a good thing because I'm in that fajita business. But they have an addiction to fajitas, and far beyond what the American beef cattle can supply of inside skirts for fajitas, because one 1,250-pound steer only makes 4 pounds of inside skirt. There's 2 on either side. So we need to import more fajitas, more inside skirts, outside skirts, stuff like that to produce fajitas here for our American addiction of fajitas.
Right.
That's why we import skirts from Uruguay or we import it from Australia. And so that's a big thing that people need to understand about beef is not just beef and product is not just take hamburgers. Hamburgers, the exact same reason that Americans are addicted to hamburgers. It's the birthplace of hamburgers pretty much. So we have a need for burgers far beyond what trim or ground beef that we can supply out of our own herd. That's why we import it from other countries.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the cool things about you and you know, your partner, Jason, is that you cover so many different parts of the supply chain, right?
Yeah.
From birth all the way down to processing. So like you have the Supreme meat purveyors where you're taking all the animal and you're distributing it. You're actually creating products. So you're cutting it into cuts of meat,
right,
but you're also producing it into already made. Like, we'll get it more into like what you guys offer.
Man,
there.
we do everything from as simple as sell a box of briskets through U.S. Foods to Leroy and Lewis, okay, or through.
And that's on the simple side.
The simplest side.
It's a big cut of meat. Just take
correct.
this out.
Yeah.
Get it out.
What we call that in our company, we call that a box in, box out transaction. You know, so the box of ribeye rolls, for instance, leaves our harvest facility, goes to Supreme. It goes in the inventory at Supreme, and it's out the next day as a box of rib rolls to a restaurant or to a distributor. So that's the most simple form. But then the problem is they don't only produce ribeyes. You know, they produce all these other things: chuck tenders, outside round flats, inside round shanks, boneless navels, all these various things that nobody ever hears about. And I like to joke that I'm working on building a steer that only produces ribeyes, but he looks like an 8 foot long weenie dog right now. You know? No, I'm just kidding. Not really. But the rib roll, the strip loin, and the tenderloin that 98.99% of everybody wants only represents 4.5% of the weight of the whole carcass.
Wow.
So what do you do with everything else? You know, that's where Supreme comes into play. So that's where we will take the trim and we'll make a really high quality ground beef product, or convert it all the way to a patty, or we take the inside round and we run it through our dicers and make like a stir fry type product, you know, like a broccoli beef looking stir fry size of a beef. We marinate that product. And today a Dean and Peeler Asian beef stir fry is in Costco in Texas. And so we take it all the way to that point at Supreme as well.
Do you ever work with like a PF Chang's, for example, and say like, what is your specific recipe that you're trying to create, and we'll add the ingredients and distribute it to already seasoned?
Yes, absolutely. And we do that. That's another interesting thing about Supreme, is that Supreme has marination capabilities, things like that, above and beyond just what our own cattle can provide. And so there are, through distributors like U.S. Foods and others, we work with fajita chains, for instance. There's one from Austin all the way up to Dallas that they got about 15 locations, and we make all their fajitas for them. That is a sirloin flap fajita that we produce for them that is not out of our cattle, because our cattle don't make enough for them.
So that fajita, that cut of meat, is like a strip, right? Do you cut and marinate it, or do you marinate the strip?
So it depends on the customer. So most of the time we take the whole inside skirt, which is about 2 feet long by about 8 inches wide, something like that. And we have a machine that's basically called a fajita skinner. It's got like a horizontal razor blade that takes off the silver skin, which is pretty tough. And then we take that fajita and put it in our vacuum tumblers.
That's the strip. When you're saying the fajita, you're talking about the whole strip.
The whole thing, right? The whole muscle. And a fajita, an inside skirt. So fajitas in the United States, they're really going to be three different things. The creme de la creme fajita most of the time is going to be what's called an outside skirt. It's smaller. It's freakishly tender. It's very expensive. Then the next phase is going to be sirloin flap usually, and then inside skirt. So most of the fajitas you have in the United States are going to be inside skirt fajitas.
Most affordable?
Yeah. And so it's a longer muscle. It's real thin, and but it does have a layer of silver skin that biologically goes up and down, and we have to take that off, because if you were to cook that, it's going to be real tough.
Got it.
So we take that silver skin off with our skinner. Then we take the skirts and we put them in a vacuum tumbler with the marinade, with the spices, turn on the vacuum, create the tumble, and after 15 minutes, we've successfully vacuum tumble marinated these fajitas, and we supply pre-marinated fajitas to multi-chain restaurant units like this one I was referring to earlier.
Yeah, and that's in Texas.
Absolutely.
Man, there's so many questions running through my head. So who is the biggest cattle producer in America?
Ooh, so when we say, okay, so the biggest beef producer, if you look at it that way, is probably JBS, which is a very large packing facility with multiple locations across the United States. So if we look at producing beef, that would be, and beef in the form of a product, it would be JBS.
JBS.
Yes.
And how many beef or like cows do they produce a year?
Oh man, I mean their plants will. I'm not going to pretend to know everything about them.
Ballpark,
but,
I guess.
Yeah, they're going to have plants that will slaughter anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 a day.
Oh damn!
And at one facility, and they probably got 4 or 5 of them
at one facility. I just want to do the math on that. So let's call 4,000. 4,000 times 365.
They're not going to go 365, so they're probably going to be about 280 days a year, something like that, if you count holidays and weekends and
4,000 times 285, you said?
Yeah.
Oops.
1.14 million a year.
Wow.
To that one plant.
Mm-hmm. You said 280. Oh, crap. I'm so bad at it. Okay, so that one plant, but then times how many plants?
4.
And how much? What's that come out to?
About 4.8 million.
4.8 million cows a year.
Mm-hmm.
How do you compare to that?
Oh, we're not even a blip on their radar, man. Yeah.
So I guess.
Yeah, we're doing. I mean, a couple of truckloads a week, roughly, would be ours. So let's say 65 a week.
Okay. So how do we? I feel like part of the issue with why we can't feed the world is because it's because it's centralized. If one thing goes wrong in that part of the country where this comes from, then we're putting all of our eggs into one basket, right? But if we had more Deans and Peelers out there that are, spreading out the resources, and like I'm thinking, okay, like if we had an operation like what you're doing here, that has from birth all the way to production, and that you can work with the anywhere from the 5 to 20 or 30 unit operator that are like the local regional operations.
Right.
Like, how do we create a foundation where we can support local? Or is that limited to Texas because you have this beautiful earth that supports cows so well?
Right. No, it's not limited here. I think what was cool about really, I'll say COVID, but really it didn't start with COVID. It goes back to December of 2003, which was the first case of mad cow disease in the United States. And that really jump-started the whole local movement, whether you raise cattle, sheep, chickens, pork, didn't matter. That was when producers really started to work with, I would say, livestock producers really started to work with their local packing facilities, their small mom and pop local packers, harvest houses, which there used to be a ton of them back then. That's when they really started working with them to say, you know what, I want to get my calves harvested at my local place, and I want to take them to a farmer's market and sell the beef. That's when farmers markets really took off, and all that local movement began was in December of 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you just want to keep going on my
Yeah. So that's when they started, okay? And then that got magnified even more during COVID, right? When people looking for local product. So what I think, and you're seeing a massive shift in the industry right now towards
Who's driving
this.
that?
Well, the consumer
is
driving it. Yeah,
man.
They're driving it. Yeah, and the consumer to me is somebody that's going to buy our product in Costco, but it's also the restaurant, absolutely, where these restaurants are wanting to work with local producers, and they got to figure out how in the heck do they do that? How do they work with a local producer? So you're seeing a nationwide shift right now into small to medium packing type places like our harvest facility. So we harvest our own cattle, but then we harvest cattle for other people too.
How do we keep you small and medium? Do you ever wonder if you want to get bigger than that? Like if you're doing really well, like does that balance look like?
I mean, we don't. I guess the question of what is big. To me, what is big? We are not big right now. I mean, to me, big is JBS, and JBS is a good company. They do a good job. I'm never going to be that big, but I don't have enough time in my life to get that big.
Right.
But you're seeing a lot of smaller regional sized plants, harvest plants, getting built and getting renovated across the country right now to where they're smaller to regional plants. And I'm going to say my size classification for that is a plant that would harvest anywhere from 50 to 600 head a week. Okay. And you're seeing a massive shift towards those kind of plants. And those plants are doing a better job of working with their local producers. And so that's great because that's going to allow restaurants and purveyors like US Foods to be able to source from places like that to get the products on the menu.
So those plants are working with local producers, meaning the people who grow and harvest.
Correct.
The farm, or the cattlemen and the chicken farmers and
right.
What are the terms for all these different?
For chicken farmers?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know, but they wear white boots. That's all I know. Nothing against them.
What about pig farmers?
Yeah, they wear white boots too. But yeah, pig farmer, chicken farmer. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you're a cattleman. That's what I called you a
yeah.
farmer when I got here.
No, I'm just joking.
Quick to correct me, a cattleman. So what up, Unstoppables? This episode is made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. If you are a listener of Restaurant Unstoppable, I know you've heard me mention Restaurant Systems Pro, but just in case you haven't heard of it yet, it is a all-in-one enterprise solution. All the most critical systems that will help you become profitable. I'm talking about costing. I'm talking about inventory management. I'm talking about budgeting. I'm talking about labor management. I'm talking about training. The list goes on, all under one roof, tied to your general ledger, and they have their own POS, and they integrate with nearly every major POS out there. Restaurant Systems Pro is an amazing tool, and this is the thing that gets me really excited. When you join Restaurant Unstoppable Network, you get access to the CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, Fred Langley, twice a week for a P&L Power Hour. He literally will let you open up your P&L, share it on the screen, and he will help you close the gaps and increase your profitability. You do not have to be a Restaurant Systems Pro user to benefit from these live events. He doesn't care. We're just here to help you. Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP to get the full playlist of every Restaurant Systems Pro episode, a link to all the testimonials. And if we haven't sold you on Restaurant Systems Pro by then, I don't know what else to do. But if you really want to up your Restaurant Systems Pro experience, be sure to join Restaurant Unstoppable Network too. All right, guys, one more time, head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if we're going to change the system, if we're going to make it possible so right now, okay, I'll just come straight to it. So interview, and this is a pattern I've seen, that it's getting harder and harder for independent restaurant owners to do the right thing. It's not fiscally sustainable to do the right thing.
Correct.
The right thing being sourcing from local farms and paying their employees a livable wage. So, prime cost right now, if you're doing less than 60%, you're doing okay. When you're paying your employees a livable wage, when you're doing, when you have a product that takes a skilled position, somebody who's good at what they do, and the training that goes into that, the education, giving that person security, a 401k, benefits, time off, and then when you're now, you want to not only just have skilled, talented people that you're creating an opportunity for, but you also want to source products that are raised humanely. You have a USDA seal of what's that official
inspection,
term? Responsibly
like
raised beef.
Right? Right.
You're feeding vegetarian food, so you're also trying to do the right thing. So the right thing ripples, right? So if how do we get to this point where
they can come together?
Yeah, if it's so hard as a restaurateur to do the right thing to be profitable, then how does that change?
I got an answer.
Okay, what is the answer?
I think it's so it's got to come from both sides. Okay, so on the production side of things, what I do, and I'm not going to coin this, my partner coined this term, but what we do every day is reverse engineering. Okay, so you look at Ford Motor Company. Ford Motor Company takes 1,000 different widgets and puts them together to create one product, which is the vehicle. We take one product, which is the animal, and then go the other direction and cut it into 1,000 different pieces, right? So hopefully when all those products, those pieces are sold, they add up to more than what the original was. So we do reverse engineering, and there's only two industries that really do that, agriculture and petroleum. I mean, you can throw timber into that, but we have to do a good job as a producer of creating as many different products as we can.
Raw goods, natural goods.
Natural goods, yeah. And so you look at the steer, right? So That's going to be all those different cuts.
I just called it a good, but it's technically a commodity.
It's technically a commodity.
Isn't that kind of, pardon my language, fucked up that we're calling like this living animal a commodity?
No, I think it's here for a purpose, and that's okay. I mean, it's a commodity refers to economics. That's okay. Well, that just means it's traded.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but like,
you don't want it to sound like neglected and too normal and
at the end of the day, it's life. You know, like food is life, unless it's salt or minerals that we're taking as vitamins, right? Like, we are taking things that once, I mean, this can get controversial depending on where where your beliefs lie and your religion is, but like we came from the same place and evolved from the same place of, depending on what you think, but there's a lot of similarity. A lot of people are saying that animals are just as conscious as humans to a certain degree. Like they're starting to prove that trees have a level of consciousness and are able to influence their environment around them. You know, so like we are taking this thing that is literally life, and we are treating it like I feel like the word commodity just kind of is like, we just treat it as
it makes it sound like
object,
like a pack of Sweet and Low. Where
there should be a little more love put into this, this thing of life that has the same source that we have.
Right. I mean, we use these animals for our food, so therefore we owe them respect. And I think that
only life can give life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Why is it that that our animal agricultural industry gets so many arrows thrown at it every single day from animal rights groups, various people that extreme groups and things, and why does it get so much attention anyway? I think honestly it sounds really elementary, but I'm sorry, but an asparagus doesn't have a personality. An asparagus doesn't have a heartbeat. The cattle that are out here next to us right now, they all have personalities, they all have heartbeats. I think that's a big reason that we gravitate to them as humans. And that's for my business partner and I and our team of great employees. That's the reason we take care of them like we do as well. I mean, we have to keep them happy. We have to keep them comfortable. Those are my kids out there. If my kids aren't comfortable, they're not going to perform. And so it's the same concept. And a lot of people in America do a really, really good job taking care of their animals, which contributes to America being the best in the world at producing a wholesome, safe product in the end. So I think that on the producer side of things, what does a producer need to do to get closer to restaurants that want to do the right thing? A producer needs, and somebody like me, needs to do a better job of trying to take that beef carcass, and converting it into as many different products as I can that will benefit the restaurant. It's not just steaks, ground beef, and roast anymore. It's flat irons, it's petite tenders. What can I offer restaurants to give them more variety and options on the menu? Okay. At the same time, the restaurant needs to have, and not every restaurant's going to work like this. Because they're obviously segmented in what category of restaurant they're in. But the more diverse of a menu that a restaurant can create, the better. Okay. The more of a restaurant that can utilize something like a stir fry product and go multiple different ways with it, that's great for a beef processor, because that stir fry product, I can put about 4 or 5 different mussels in it and create the same eating experience.
What's cool about that, so now my world of like the past 12 years of my life studying the restaurant industry, so a couple things come to mind. One, what you're doing is you're helping the restaurant save on labor. Right. Because one of the biggest expenses, prime cost of goods, and then labor. So if you have to take a product and take it from all these different cuts of meats and to process it into stir fry meat, like that is going to cost you, I don't know how long it would take for you to go and process that meat, right? But like hours and hours, and you're paying somebody hopefully a livable wage, at least $15 to $20 an hour to do that. That compounds. If you can work with a local fully vertically integrated operation where they're doing sustainable work, humane work, economically and fiscally sustainable, and you can be a part of that. Like that farm is processing the food, so you can save on labor. And then what you're seeing too, that is like the other side of this. So one thing is the labor cost. You're starting there. The other thing is the trends in the restaurant industry right now. Instead of having one menu that is diverse, you're seeing people develop concepts. So one restaurant group that is diverse with the concepts they offer, so they can create systems and processes around doing one thing really well. And there is a trend happening right now where health food is very like live, like stir fries. And then protein is very healthy, especially if it's, ethically raised, right? And sustainable, good products.
Right.
So there's opportunity here to create concepts where you're purchasing product from your farms or people like you to do only stir fries.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? And to build a brand around that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what we take the marination side of things for us. A segment of our business that's growing is producing, pre-marinated fajitas for a fajita chain that there's no labor in. All they have to do is open the package and throw the pre-marinated inside skirt on the grill to grill it. And a great example of that, last week I was in Houston, and I was there with a distributor, and we went in to see an account, and they go through about 7,000 or 8,000 pounds a week of fajitas. But what they're doing is they're buying whole inside skirts, and they're using their kitchen staff with a knife to try to trim off the fat, trim off all the silver skin, insane amount of labor. And then the yield is really
consistency.
bad. Yes. And then they're trying to marinate those in a lug of marinade overnight. They hope that all their locations use the right spice profile. Is insane amount of labor and inconsistency. We can go in and we can produce a product for them that is trimmed, marinated. It matches their exact same profile. All the labor's gone. All they have to do is cook it. And that's huge for them when they have to battle other things like that packet of Sweet and Low going up 1,000% every 6 months.
So what is the average size restaurant group that's working with you?
Oh man, that's tough because we work with a lot of onesie operations too.
Single unit operators?
Yeah, single unit operators.
I guess how feasible is this is where I'm going. If I'm a single unit operator, I'm a small mom and pop, like is there a certain amount of volume that I have to bring to you in order for you to make this fiscally responsible for you?
I think that would be a good question for that restaurant through the distributor that they work with. The distributors, if they're doing their job, they know where I am, and people like me are.
What do you mean by that?
They know if a distributor is doing their job right now of wanting to bring more of a local product from operators, whether you're pork, chicken, poultry, beef, doesn't matter. If the distributor's going to do their job by knowing where those producers are and how to get that product to bring it to the customer, right? So if I'm a restaurant, the restaurant shouldn't be the one having to do all the work to figure out, hey, I want to buy eggs from this guy up northwest of Dallas, Texas, because I read about him on the internet. They're still going to do that and everything, but the distributors should know where those people are.
Yeah.
They're the ones because they're the ones that bring the product to the restaurant in the first place.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. So a lot of them do. A lot of them do that and are doing a good job of finding where those producers are, finding those products, and offering that lineup to the restaurant. What we find, that is true, and we find these distributors that will go to a restaurant, hey, have you tried Dean and Peeler yet? Holy crap, you need to try it. It's pretty awesome. Here's the story. It's low-carbon technology verified, all this cool stuff, and the product is impeccable. But at the same time, you see producers that will do their own research, and they'll find Dean and Peeler, then they go to the distributor and say, I want you to bring Dean and Peeler to me. Yeah, so it kind of happens both ways.
So how many different distributors are you working with?
I'd say 5.
5.
Yeah.
How do you determine who you work with? What's that process?
Really, that's up to the restaurant. In some cases, the restaurant that we may walk into and try to land ourselves, okay, is already working with the distributor that they want us to work with. We'll work with anyone. We don't have, we're not picky. We want to get our product to the customers. So there's in some cases where we go into the restaurant and we work with them without even talking to a distributor. Like I go in, I'll do a tasting with a steak with a chef before we've even spoken to a distributor. And then I get the chef sold on the product.
So does the chef typically reach out to you saying, I heard your product's great. I want to, can I sample it?
Both. I mean, we will walk right into a door as well and say, hey, I need to talk to you about our product. This is who we are. And we'll schedule a cutting. A lot of times they reach out to us as well. And so we'll walk in and we'll meet with the customer, meet with the chef, whether they reach out to us or vice versa, they both happen, and we'll do a cutting and we'll land the restaurant, and then we will say, how would you like for us to get this product to you? So then the restaurant owner or the chef or head of purchasing will say, I want to get it through this distributor, or do you work with that distributor? So that's one way we land accounts. The other way is that we work with distributors, and the distributor will call me and say, hey, we need to go see this account. They're interested in you. So in that case, the distributor made the introduction.
Got it. So the way I found you is through Leroy and Lewis. Evan Leroy said he just was speaking amazingly about your product and the level of consistency, your practices, how you vertically integrate.
Right.
One thing that hasn't come out is the price. Because of you do all these things. Are you a superior product at a lower price point?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. And so vertical integration doesn't automatically mean a cheaper price point, right? Yeah. So there's things that we do to our cattle here and don't do to our cattle that cause them to be more expensive than the commodity cattle that are out in the pastures next to our operation. So there's things we do to them, things that we don't do to them that cause them to be more expensive. So therefore, yeah, that's something a point we need to make here too is the people, your customers that are out, I guess you call them customers that listen to your podcast.
Well, they're your customers. They're my listeners. They sometimes are my customers when they join my community. And
well, everybody needs to, because this is a pretty cool podcast, Unstoppable.
You.
So your listeners, okay, just because they may find a product, a protein product from pork, poultry, beef, doesn't matter. If they want to source locally, doesn't mean it's going to be any cheaper. In fact, it's probably going to be a little more expensive.
It is, which is why it's hard to do the right thing.
Yes, because you take my harvest plant, for instance. Our harvest facility, our harvest plant is small compared to, go back to that JBS plant that may do 4,000 in one day. So economies of scale go into account there. They have a lot more animals that they go through every day that they can spread their fixed costs out over. I don't have that. I'm a tiny little guy compared to them. So we still have fixed costs, but I don't have near as many animals to spread it out over. So my per animal processing cost for me is double what industry average is.
That was just per animal costing?
Yep. Okay. Per animal harvest cost, processing cost is way more than what industry average is, just because of economies of scale. I can't compete with efficiencies. And there's nothing wrong with big. That's another thing I want people to understand. Just because you're big doesn't make you bad.
Right.
And so they're bigger. They have more economies of scale to spread the fixed costs out over. I don't. So that's one thing. That's one of the reasons that cost, that added cost that I have in my processing, has to get transferred on to the product that our model produces, which is the beef.
So what's the benefit of your model then? Why would I choose you over a cheaper product or less expensive?
Well, go back to, we'll use that word commodity. Why would you choose us over a commodity product? Number one, it's the eating experience. It's by far the number one. People, Leroy and Lewis, the customers go there, they have that product, and it is impeccable from taste, flavor, tenderness, juiciness, and it's consistent. Every single time it's the same. Okay, so for the customer, that's it. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how cool the story is. It doesn't matter how sustainable that the product, the operation that produced the product may be. If it sucks, when you eat it, you're not going to go back and buy it.
What the pattern tends to be, the cooler the story is, the better the product tastes.
That can be, yeah.
Because there's usually something that goes into that product, whether it be a value or just knowing that you're choosing to support a local farm.
Yeah.
I think that to your point, like, big companies aren't evil, but there's something to be said about distributing wealth and stopping the rich from getting richer and the poor from getting poorer. And that has to be a conscious decision. It has to be a choice made by the consumer to say, no, I want to take my money, and instead of saving 25 cents or 50 cents on this product, maybe it's $1 or $2. Yeah. I'm going to choose to spend a little bit more because I want to spread my money out or to give my money back to my community.
Right. Yeah, I do that. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's something that, like, you cannot instantaneously see the result of that effort, but over time you have to believe that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer for a reason. It's because of the conscious decisions or the unconscious purchasing decisions that the consumer is making.
Yeah, I think 10 years ago, you did not see the amount of smaller harvest plants and smaller processing plants that are out there now. Excuse me. Than you compared to what you do today. That's because the shift in that restaurant community that is trying to buy local. So that necessity is the mother of invention statement is 100% true.
Do you think that shift is coming from the consumer, or do you think that the restaurateur is influencing the consumer and educating the consumer on their purchasing decision?
Ooh, I think it's 75% from the consumer.
Yeah.
That the restaurants know that they need to do that because you're seeing a shift. A great example of that is 2 Mondays ago was in Orlando at a really, really awesome conference that's called the American Meat Conference. And it's a convention that's every year, and it is attended by not just big, but retailers. Everybody from a retailer that may have 10 locations to Kroger, 10 locations to Publix. They're all there. And they're all there to learn more about meat and about how they can do a better job of selling meat to their customers. The number one thing that was talked about when I was there was the sustainability story of the meat products that these retailers are getting to their customers, and how do I, as a retailer, a big retailer, communicate the message, the carbon footprint message, or the sustainability message, or the historical message of my products to my consumers.
Yeah.
They know that, and because the retailers, there's not anybody I know of in the food industry that knows more about what their customers want than a retailer.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to do whatever they want. And but at the same time, a restaurant needs to be able to tell that story to somebody that may not know about Dean and Peeler or know about a local poultry product or something like that in the restaurant. One of the things that we do to try to really help with that is we do staff trainings.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you go to the restaurant?
Yes, sir. And we bring them here.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we've had tons of staff trainings here at our facility with the cattle. Because to me, if that person's walking up to serve the customer a burger or a steak or whatever it may be, to me, if I'm a customer and that wait staff tells me, you know what, I've been there. I was there. I saw the cattle in person. That's going to help sell that product to that person. So we'll do that. We make these little server cards too that talk all about the product that the servers can take with them. And that's something if I was a restaurant. I'd love to see
some of those things.
Yeah, I've got them.
Yeah. So it sounds, what do you think is the number one thing that's happening in the world right now where the consumer is driving this change?
Of buying local?
Yeah, like why do you think that this is a trend? Where is this influence coming from?
I think a lot of it is people wanting a safe product and making the connection that a local product is technically safer. That may or may not be true. I think we have an America First mentality right now, no matter what side of the aisle people fall on. I mean, America First doesn't only mean you're Republican. It doesn't only mean you're Democrat. It doesn't mean you're in the middle. I think that's a big part of it. And I'm thankful for that because that's given me an opportunity to get out there and tell my story and show people what kind of products that we have. And go ahead.
I think healthier, too, is a big thing. People want to be happier, healthier, and wealthier.
Yep.
Those are the three major things that people make purchasing decisions on.
Yep.
And I think when you look at our health and our happiness, it's directly related to, how we feel, the food, we are what we eat. And
that's
I think
right.
There's something to be said about people are starting to realize that, if I purchase quality product, if I'm putting good food into my body, I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to be happier.
It seems like that would be common sense.
Right. I'm not only am I going to be happier because I feel good
right.
and I'm putting healthy food into my body, but I'm also going to be happier because I know that every time I purchase that product, I'm helping somebody in my community.
Right.
I'm giving back to my community. I'm making my community healthier. And when a community's healthier, everyone's happier.
That's right. That's right. Know? Yeah. That's right.
And it comes down to just that conscious decision. I think marketing, the reason why I say things like marketing is the bane of human existence is because whoever has the most money can control the narrative and can make the biggest influence on the consumer at the consumer's expense.
That's right. I mean, they say, you can make anything look good on Facebook.
Right, dude. And if you have buku bucks and you can put 40% of your income towards marketing expenses because you're making that much money, how do you compete with that?
It's tough. I mean, that's why I go back to, that's why we like people to come here. I want people to come here because I get to show them what goes on and they don't have to only go off of what they read on a website or a social media post somewhere without ever really being there and knowing. You're never going to know until you really come there. And that's what we find when people come here. They come and say, man, They come in with a preconceived notion of what it is. They leave with a total different outlook on how things actually go on here.
Yeah.
And I'll never. There's a buyer for a very, very large nationwide fast food chain that came here one time. I'm not going to talk about who it is, but they came here one time and made the comment when they left, like, man, like the cattle look happy. They look comfortable. Like, well, yeah. I mean, if they weren't, I wouldn't be able to produce a good product, man.
Yeah.
You know, and so stop bashing
It's all
my
connected.
industry without ever coming here and seeing what it looks like in person.
Right, and I think that's the other thing is when you feel happier and healthier, it's probably because the stuff that you're putting into your body
Was happy and healthy at the same time.
It's all connected, man.
Absolutely. Stress,
Yeah.
you think about a great
We're going to talk
movie.
about that, the harvesting.
Yeah, a movie that I would highly recommend all your listeners go take a look at, and a lot of them probably have already seen it, but it's called Temple Grandin, and it's actually a lady's name. So Temple, Temple, Grandin is Grandin, Temple Grandin. Temple is in her 70s now, and it's a movie about her life. And Temple is a autistic person, severely autistic person. That she was at a very young age. She was at her uncle's ranch in Arizona, and she figured out that she was sensitive as a highly autistic person to a lot of the same things that livestock, especially cattle, are sensitive to.
Yo, sorry, have you heard of this the podcast series called the Telepathy Tapes?
Oh no!
Sorry, but keep going.
No, I haven't.
Keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
So she was highly sensitive to.
So she figured out that she was highly sensitive to the same thing cattle were, and so her whole postdoctoral work was done on better cattle handling facilities, low stress cattle handling facilities. Like her doctorate, her PhD was on the moo. Why are cattle mooing more? Well, they're uncomfortable. And so she was able to design in her work all of these different livestock handling systems. And in the end, not just cattle, but pork too, about low stress handling systems, mainly for packing facilities first and then feeding facilities second, as far as chronologically goes. But
packaging, meaning where they're killed and processed.
Yeah. And so Claire Danes is the one that plays Temple Grandin in the movie. It is absolutely awesome because it showed how bad of a job that our industry was doing before she showed up. And now you can go to, I would say, 98% of every packing facility in the United States, and they all have her pen design. And one of the simple things she's figured out was that if I want cattle to go from point A to point B, I need to move them in a curve. Cattle that are moving in a curvature motion think that they're going back to where they came from.
You see that in wilds when there's a animal chasing a herd of animals. Like they always roll back around.
They'll
and
roll
fish
back
too.
around. They think they're going in a curve. So if you took a drone and flew it over any modern packing facility today and flew that drone and looked down at their cattle handling facilities, it's not the straight line walk up. The pins and what we call them snakes, which is just a slang term for like the area that gets smaller and smaller that leads up like the lane
funnel
kind of thing, like a walking lane.
Yeah.
It's all in a curvature motion like this.
So they think that they're coming back.
They
around.
think, and they're comfortable. And my 11-year-old daughter could move 1,500-pound steers by herself because the pins are designed correctly for low stress. So that is another thing that leads to product quality.
Right.
Animals that are stressed right before they're harvested
Endorphins
deliver
right?
crazy bad product quality. So they're more comfortable. We can keep them right up until the end.
Is that because of the adrenaline that's rushing through
Yep,
there? Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, a lot to do with that. You'll have other things that can call in cattle what we call dark cutters, which is the meat will be really dark purple from an animal that was too stressed out before. You don't see that much anymore because they've done a much better job. So I forgot we were going with that, but I would highly recommend everybody to watch the Temple Grandin movie for sure.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say the telepathy tapes is we're just learning so much about just the mind, and what humans are capable of. I think we're also learning about what animals are capable of, and we're just Moore's law is that technology is enhancing exponentially, right? But I think that we have to look at information as technology and knowledge. We're learning more about the natural world in an exponential rate too, and that information helps us steer how to do things better. And what we're learning is the best way to go forward is by studying our past,
correct,
and trying to mimic and replicate things in the natural world. In this example, the cows mimicking and creating that natural motion that makes them feel comfortable.
Exactly.
And it's the telepathy tapes was about this. Basically, they're people who are nonverbal. They're usually autistic on the spectrum somehow. They can't control their muscles a certain way, or they can't speak. But traditionally, people thought that these people were just kind of like turned off inside. Like they weren't treated well. But now we're realizing that these people that are nonverbal or non-speakers can actually read minds.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like to a crazy level of accuracy. And it's typically with a close relationship, or like somebody like a mother or something like that, or a father or a cousin or a sister or brother. But they run these tests and they're able to like get these people with like 100% accuracy, like guess like numbers or like, what's like, and it's just like, because like, I think what these heightened senses. So the reason that I thought of that was this autistic.
It's the same thing. Yeah. What's cool,
tune.
she will come to a current operation. Temple and her team will come to your operation as a livestock producer. They will help you like redesign everything that you do. But I'm talking to the point where they get down on their hands and knees and they crawl through the current cattle handling system that you have.
Yeah.
And there'll be like a chain dangling that a normal human wouldn't really notice, but she notices it because she's sensitive to that kind of thing. Or, hey, there's a shadow over here you need to take care of.
Yeah, they're different wavelengths. They're operating at different wavelengths. They're much more in tune with parts of their brain that I think that other people who can have traditional communication are that part of their brain is kind of, we don't use it like we used to.
No.
One thing I don't think we've really talked about, and I want to make sure we emphasize this, is if we are listening to this podcast and we want to work with you, what is the best way to get a hold of you or to source your products?
Yeah, the best way to find out about us really is to go to deanandpeeler.com. And that's the word and, so deanandpeeler.com. And then we talk about a lot of our different operations there within the company, and we talk about where to get it. A lot of our growth right now is in retail, honestly, just because we're able to make these marinated stir fry products, steak strip products,
saving time and energy for the people at home.
Dang right, yeah. I mean, that whatever we can do for those parents to free up their own time at home by taking something home that's wholesome, nutritious, but it's already somewhat prepared for them.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like we have fully cooked products of a fully cooked birria, fully cooked carne asada, things like that are heat and serve, but it's a really, really high quality. The whole industry is going that direction. But yeah, there's a lot of good information at deanandpeeler.com on that.
And in terms of like distributor, like what are the distributors that you work with that will help it make it?
That you can get it. So we work with U.S. Foods. We work with Benny Keith. We work with GFI, which is Gourmet Foods International. And they're going to be working with a couple others here pretty quick, signing them on. Absolutely.
Who were some of the earliest people to work with you in terms of distribution? I heard about you through Leroy and Lewis, and they use U.S. Foods.
Yeah.
Is that how they get their
that's
product?
That's how they get their product is their U.S. Foods. Yeah.
How much of a part of distribution is going to be a part of the answer going forward? Like not only carrying broadliner distributors, or not products, but the distributors going to smaller farms to give them equal opportunity to get their goods out.
I mean, it's huge because, again, we're processors, we're not distributors, right? So distribution, but the distributors have a lot of math already worked out of what does it cost them to stop a truck at a location and do a drop. And I can't do it for as cheap as they can. So, and that's the bus that I need to get the product to the customer. Yeah. Right. So I think that is massive for a lot of these distributors to be able to connect. And it's great for these processors because I have to speak a lot about this kind of topic. I have to speak a lot to people that are wanting to sell their own beef. How do they get it to a restaurant? Who do they talk to? They learn what a center of the plate or a COP specialist is at a distributor. That's the person they need to talk to. That's the person that's the protein specialist. That's the person that goes into a restaurant and usually consults with the restaurant, help them with the menu, but that person should know where to get the product too. So yeah, distributions plays a massive role in it. And there's some people that try to distribute themselves, but it ends up being a little bit more difficult than they expected.
Yeah. What's it like working with U.S. Foods specifically? Like, what has that relationship been like?
Well, I think it's been good. Number one, it's been good. And but I said something when you first got here too, is that they're kind of they're a competitor and a partner at the same time because U.S. Foods does have its own product line, their own protein product line. On the beef side of things, it's called Cattleman's that they push, and rightfully so. I don't blame them. They're out there pushing that one. So at the same time, they're selling our Dean and Peeler product. at the same time. So that's where they're kind of a partner and a competitor at the same time. However, there's attributes about our Dean and Peeler product that no one else can have. And so that's the notoriety that we bring to it.
Well, I think this is a big part of the conversation in terms of if we choose to go further, if we choose to go together, we go further, right? And, I think diversifying and splintering the offering more, and not just thinking about yourself as a distributor, but how I help other people too, and how can we create those win-wins?
Absolutely. And there's starting to be smaller distributors get created too.
Yeah.
There's a smaller local one here in the San Antonio and Austin area called South Texas Cuisine.
Okay.
And that's what they specialize in. Is they're smaller. They do a lot of work with local producers. And they're smaller. They can kind of juke and jive a little bit quicker to get things done than maybe a larger corporation can, a larger distributor can. Yeah. So you're starting to see some smaller ones like that.
So what's the future for Dean and Peeler?
Man, the future, well, a lot of it's going to be what do we have to do to grow our brand right now. And our future is we want to harvest more cattle. We want to grow, but I have to sell the whole animal before I can grow. I can't just harvest more cattle for briskets. We have to move the whole animal. So that's where our Supreme Meat Purveyors really comes into play, is that the better job we can do creating products like this Asian stir fry that I can use half a dozen different muscles for to create the same product in the end, that helps me utilize more of the carcass. That helps me grow. So on the one hand, I've got to create cool products like this Asian stir fry. At the same time, I've got to get it sold to a customer that's going to be a bigger volume for that kind of thing. And so far that's been retail. The more I can do stuff like that, the more I can harvest more cattle to produce more steaks, get into those kind of things. So like I said, it's that reverse engineering. We have to sell all the parts to grow. The last thing I'm going to do is harvest a lot more cattle just for briskets and then put a bunch of stuff in the freezer that I don't ever get to sell.
Have you heard of Angie's Prime in Arizona?
Angie's Prime? No, I haven't. Huh?
So Tony Christophilus, he started Just Salads. I think it was Just Salads. I can't remember but he had this concept that he scaled and then he sold that focused on healthy like salads. And I don't think it was called Just Salad. Something salad. It was a salad concept. But anyway, he sold that, and now he started Angie's, where he is vertically integrating. He started with Angie's Lobster.
Okay.
And he bought a pier in Maine, and he owns the whole supply chain from the fishing to the dock, the pier, right, to the distribution, the shipping, to the actual production, where he can sell lobster rolls for $10.99 or $9.99 a pound in Arizona.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Right, because he owns the entire distribution chain.
Right.
He vertically integrated everything.
Right.
To the point where he has a processing. So they don't ship the lobster out to Arizona. They bring it from the boat to the pier. They process it on the pier. They package it and they ship it ready to be made. So their labor expense is like next to nothing. And now they're doing the same thing with Angie's Prime, where now they're doing what you've done, and they're basically purchasing pastures, and they're creating a supply chain just to the restaurant. Would you ever open your own restaurant?
Oh, I would love to have one. Yeah, we talk about it all the time. Absolutely. I'd love to have a Dean and Peeler steakhouse kind of place or something. Absolutely.
I think that that's the future. I think that there's going to be partnerships, and I think it's about this idea. Like, you wouldn't be the chef. You wouldn't be the bartender. You wouldn't be the maitre d', but you could vertically integrate and use your business model to collaborate and partner with barbecue joints like Leroy and Lewis or something like that, and then create concepts to be distribution lines for your less popular,
Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, for the best thing we could probably do is open a sizable burger chain.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more out of a carcass that gets produced than ground beef.
Angie's Prime Burger.
Yep.
So
they'd be pushing ground beef. I bet a burger chain would probably push this more.
I've said this before. I'll say it again. I think that the restaurant industry is going to change the world. For as long as we've been human beings, Homo sapien, food has been at the core, has been like the hinging point of what causes us to evolve and transform. From our discovery of fire and cooking food to even the act of hunting and gathering was supposedly the spark of the scientific revolution, because we had to make a hypothesis, we had to study the animal, make a prediction of what we thought was going to happen, test our prediction to see if we were right in capturing the animal, and working together, communicating, creating a scientific process of like, or eating something that, can we eat that? Well, let's see what happens.
Yeah, right.
So, that kicked off the scientific revolution, chemistry, math, cooking, and then agriculture. Food has been at the cornerstone of human evolution for as long as we've like existed. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten to this point where food is such an afterthought in terms of like, we just take it for granted. It's just there. We just go to the grocery store and like, it's there. But I think if we got to go into the future, it's going to be in bringing food back to a bigger part of our lives, sourcing, farming, all these things, and really being intentional with it. And I think it's people like you mm-hmm. that are going to prove that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
what
happening.
You're doing.
Yeah, it's happening now. Absolutely. I mean, we didn't have the infrastructure 20 years ago, 30 years ago to really do all this, or the knowledge of
how to like tie farming and business and to make it economically feasible.
Right.
But how do we use economics mm-hmm. and sustainability to like do what's the right?
Yeah. I mean, like with our product, for instance, we talk about the sustainability of it economically and environmentally. I mean, you look at the regular beef cow herd, or regular ranchers in the United States, and I'm segregating Dean and Peeler here on this beef dairy deal. A regular rancher in the United States, we breed cows in the spring and we breed cows in the fall because that's when it rains. Rains in the spring, rains in the fall. That's why and then you have calves born in the spring and you have them born in the fall. That's why you have massive spikes in cattle supplies throughout the year. That's one of the reasons prices go up and down too. You look at a dairy, that milk truck pulls up to a dairy every single day to fill up with milk. And no matter what kind of dairy you are, they all pull up every single day. That's why you have to have cows lactating every day, which means you have to have them pregnant and calving every day.
Yeah.
So that dairy that we work with to produce these calves, we know 52 weeks a year exactly what kind of supply we're going to have. And it's the same every single week. So from a supply standpoint, that's really cool. Another really interesting thing too is in our model, all of our cattle start off their life as a byproduct because the animal itself, the beef dairy cross calf, is a byproduct of the mating. That's just what it takes to get the cow pregnant to get her produced milk. So the calf is actually a byproduct of that model. So that's a huge thing when you start looking at carbon footprint. There's a company out there everybody should look up. It's really cool. It's called Low Carbon Technologies. And they are the first to have an algorithm officially approved by USDA that actually calculates a beef operation and a dairy operation. They work with dairies too, but they analyze our carbon footprint as compared to industry average.
And this is Low Carbon Technologies?
Low Carbon Technologies.
And they're a service that just measures carbon footprint?
So they come in with us and they look at everything. Where do your calves come from? What do you feed them? Like where do your feed ingredients come from? How far away?
Where are they based?
Oh, they've got quite a few different people on their team. It's in the Midwest somewhere. I can't exactly remember.
Well,
at the
head
time.
Is in the Midwest this fall. Maybe.
Yeah, low carb. I can get you hooked up with them.
Yeah,
So when you look at statements like regenerative and green or whatever, there's one of the problems with that is that those are marketing claims. Those are there's never been actual. No, I don't mean brainwashing. I mean
it's a greenwashing.
Oh, greenwashing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but there's never been actual algorithms or equations behind that are third-party approved that actually verify to a number what they're saying.
Yeah.
Low Carbon Technologies is the first to have it an algorithm where they can come in and analyze a beef operations model, everything that they do, from how far do your employees come from, how far do you have to truck your cattle, where do your feed come from, all these different things, and they analyze your beef carbon footprint as compared to industry average. And we are light years. Our model is light years ahead of the industry average.
Man, can you see why this podcast is 2 hours long?
I got it. Yeah, I know we're getting close to the end.
Yeah, man. And I could keep going. Honestly, I want to respect your time. I think you're pulling up some things here that I want to go deeper into. Low carbon technologies is one of them. Mm-hmm. You said one more thing that I want to bring to the surface that I think is really important. You said that America is addicted to fajitas. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is something that we have to really kind of be mindful of as we're developing concepts, is that people don't realize where their food comes from. They're like, oh, I just go to the Mexican restaurant and I can have fajitas year round. I can have lemons and limes and avocados and pineapple fruity drinks year round.
Right.
And I think a big part of the issue with the tariffs and all this stuff is like people are like, oh, like you mean I need to spend a bunch of money on pineapples and bananas? And it's like, motherfucker, like,
yeah.
Where do you think people were getting like how did people feed each other 100 years ago before like airplanes were and ships were making it affordable?
Right.
You know, like I think we've gotten so detached from our food system and like how privileged we are to be able to get these things year round.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think part of it isn't just sourcing from sustainable farms, but also educating people and restaurant owners. Like, stop. Yeah. Is it an issue? Let me just phrase it this way: is it an issue that it's more expensive to get food from down the street than it is to have it shipped in from South America?
What do you mean by issue? Can you define issue?
Is it a problem like where it's more economically unsustainable to support the farm in our community than it is to source food from the other side of the planet?
You have to be specific on the product. So on some products, absolutely. Yeah. Like there's not you go back to the fajita thing. That's just a supply and demand issue, right? That's not really, that doesn't have that much to do with like locality on the supply and demand kind of thing.
Well, you said during the off seasons, you'd have to get it from like Australia.
Well, and not only that, but it's not just off season. I mean, there's we import inside skirts from other countries like that year round, not just in the off season.
Just
or anything.
to keep up with the demand.
To keep up with the demand, and that's because cattle were not built to only produce an inside skirt. So they produce, that's a fraction of what they produce. There's just not a way to do it. We have to bring it in from other places, and Hispanic. Mexican style restaurant concepts is, I think last time I looked, pretty much the fastest growing one in the country.
I guess to my point is the restaurant economic model in terms of like where we're going with like basically giving the consumer what the consumer wants.
I understand.
Right? Like more Mexican. Mm-hmm. Is that sustainable? Like in terms of like supporting local businesses?
I think
is that the next step of evolution in terms of the conscious eating?
I don't think that a restaurant, and I've never owned one, but I don't think that a restaurant should try to base everything off 100%. It has to be local. It has to be, and of course you got to define local. How close is that? But because when you get into smaller production systems, like smaller production systems, they are typically a little more expensive because of the economies of scale, like what I talked about with our plant being small. Yeah. It's a little more expensive. We're not as efficient. So to me, it needs to be a blend. It's got to be a good blend of what it takes to get that done. Yeah.
What if there's more farms like yours spread out? Like what if more people are encouraged to do the vertical integrating that you're doing, where maybe during different seasons we can at least source locally? Because like in my mind, like I feel like we should do what we can to eat food that's grown on this country's soil.
Absolutely, we should. Number one, if we can do it.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, like, how does the restaurant play into that? If they're opening more Mexican restaurants that serve mangoes, pineapples, bananas, and their fruity drinks.
I mean, there's no stopping that freight train just because that restaurant sector is listening to the customer. If more customers are wanting that kind of product, then there's going to be more restaurants open like that. Right. And then they're going to turn around and think, well, where do I need to get my product? What do I do? So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any stopping that. That's a consumer trend that's wanting that kind of thing.
We have proven that the consumer is changing.
Yes, absolutely they are.
So absolutely. I think it happens from continuing to have conversations like
this. Yeah. And I think it's great for these restaurants to be trying to source local. It's got to be a diverse menu, in my opinion, because there's supply and demand issues there's places in Austin, for instance, that they source local, but they make it very clear on the menu on availability. Right. Yeah, when they can, for sure.
When it's possible. Mm-hmm. Dustin, man, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
had a lot of time. One last time, how can we find you if we're interested in sourcing your products? Mm-hmm. We want to learn more. Maybe we want to come do a field trip with our team.
Come see us. Yeah. Absolutely, man. We got a lot of horses here that need some work, so bring your boots.
I got boots in my truck.
You got boots in your truck? Yeah. We again go to deanandpeeler.com, and there's all kinds of contact numbers there for me, and emails from me and the other people. I mean, that's the best way to do it is go to deanandpeeler.com.
Mention those distributors again that you're working with in case we want to.
Yeah, U.S. Foods, Benny Keith, GFI, which is Gourmet Foods International, South Texas Cuisine. Got a few others coming up. Some conversations we're having that are about to open.
And who do you respect and admire in the industry? This is my North Star. This is how I find future guests. Who needs to be on my radar? Who's doing it right? Who has impressed you? Who's good people doing good work? Also fiscally sustainable and environmentally sustainable, doing good work. Like who's coming to mind? Who's a good restaurateur that comes to mind?
Oh, a restaurateur.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, a restaurateur. Well, yeah, I think Leroy and Lewis is
got them.
Yeah, I know you got them already. I mean, I got to plug them, but Leroy and Lewis for sure is really good. I mean, that's a local one for me, here in Austin.
Yep.
Another one that does a good job in San Antonio is called Pullman Market.
Pullman Market.
Yeah, Pullman, Pullman Market, and it's in the Pearl Brewery area. Really cool area in San Antonio.
Who's the person there I have to talk to?
Ooh, I got to find that one for you. And we don't actually sell our product to Pullman Market. My business partner, Jason, his wife, and they have a Wagyu label that's called Peeler Farms Wagyu. And so we harvest all of her cattle for her, and she sells, and her daughter, Annabeth Peeler, sell the beef directly to restaurants, but they sell to Pullman Market. And Pullman Market sources from a couple other local people. They do a really, really good job. They got a really cool, big, sustainable model. They do well, and they do. And then there's some, believe it or not, there's some really big retailers that are going all in on sustainability.
Yeah.
Costco's one of them.
I'm excited.
Big time.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to reach out to that low carbon technology company. So any contacts there,
I'll
take
get you
them if
that.
got them. Awesome. This is where I say thank you so much, Dustin. I cannot do what I do without people like you getting open, getting vulnerable, sharing your knowledge. And there is no questioning, my man, you are unstoppable.
Cool. Thank you.
Cheers.